How good are light bulbs? Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. What's going on, guys? My name is Josh Setterfield. Welcome to JSTV episode 1. So this series is about my adventures as an artist and what my team and I get up to when we're on the road. We're gonna give you guys a behind the scenes look at kind of what happens between the shows and around and not just what's on stage. Sometimes it's gonna be shot on a really good camera and sometimes it's gonna be shot on a phone. Most of the time a phone. For some reason, I'm acting like an air hostess, like here are your exits over here, and you can stick it up your bum over there. But welcome to our house. This is the upstairs. It's like every other house. It's quite boring. So let's go downstairs instead. Come on. So just at the bottom of these stairs, duck. This is my recording studio. This is where I spend majority of my time writing songs for you guys and editing all the JSTVs, recording all the new songs. Check us out. Stars. Ooh. And this here is my arcade that I've built. So this here is what I call Setterland's Barcade. I call it Setterland because so many people get my last name wrong. So like my own little theme park, Setterland. I've got like all different arcade games and stuff in here. So come check them out, let's go. I've got an old Time Zone arcade stacker. This is my pool table and I made these lights out of a drum kit. I actually made these two machines, guns and old arcade classics, a Jurassic Park pinball machine, as well as a projector with old 90s stuff like video games and a bar, a racing game. Plus I have a vending machine with alcohol in it. Dangerous, very dangerous. Lots of collectible stuffs on the wall. Goosebumps, Street Sharks, Buzz and Woody, Back to the Future, Sonic the Hedgehog, E.T. and Chucky from the Rugrats, a basketball machine, fuck, a Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts here. And I've got a VHS collection that goes like all the way along the rest of the wall. We'll be absolutely here all day if I show you everything, so let's move on, come on. So yeah, me as a kid would have been so proud of me today having something like this in my house. Speaking of me as a kid, since this is JSTV episode 1, I thought I'd take you guys back to where it all began for me. So my story is a little different to a lot of modern country artists, and a lot of people always ask me like, how did I get to where I am? Like, what's my background? So here we go, back to where it started for me in this episode that we're appropriately titling, Who the Fuck is Josh Setterfield? So where do we start? So when a mum and dad love each other very much, they decide that they want to, you know, do that thing. Well, I was born in the 90s. I grew up in a little fishing town just south of Newcastle, a little place called Wanji. And my nan and pop, they've owned a house there for about 50 years on the waterfront, and it's pretty much the house that I grew up in. The house means a lot to me, you know. It's crazy the amount of memories and like nostalgia that 4 walls can hold. And Wanji was, and it still is, it's always gonna be like my favorite place in the entire world. I can go there and just feel at peace within myself. Like it's the only place in the world I can really feel like that. I go there and it's like I remember who I am type thing. If I'm ever lost or something like that. I always had a really good relationship with everyone in my family, but I was definitely super close with my mom. She's always been my go-to person with pretty much everything in my life, and she's amazing. She really is. She's always just been like hard-working mom, and she's the best, and she always will be the best.
How old are you today?
2? Oh, you're a big boy now.
So I was a pretty quiet and shy kid. I know that may be hard for some people to imagine, but I never really had much confidence. Yeah, I struggled to make friends, and unless they came up and spoke to me, and once they knew me, it was a completely different story. But music was always a thing for me, you know, even before I knew what it was. It's like, it didn't matter the style, I just loved all of it. There's this early footage early on of just like a radio being on in the background, or even just being in public as a kid and stuff like that, and I'm just, I'm just there with my incredible dance moves, just bobbing up and down, just vibing to the music. But I was always listening, and you can see it in my eyes, trying to work it out, you know. My pop, he was a bassist when he was younger, and my dad was a drummer. My grandma was a musician, as well as my uncle, who's actually a singer and guitarist. So I've definitely always had music in me, or if not around me.
There, what are you doing?
I see where Monkey here on the step.
What, sitting with Monkey on the step?
Pop has been my hero pretty much my entire life though. I still have this memories as a little kid and I seeing a band for the first time, and we actually have it on video, seeing a band for the first time and just being amazed. Pop lifts me up onto the stage and cue my incredible dance move once again. And the band actually led us up on stage to stand next to the drummer so we could watch them from like that angle, and that was actually the first time I'd ever been on stage. And I guess it must have stuck with me because here I am, and I'm doing this now, and I can't get off the stage. I just want to be on it all the time. Yeah.
Sing Three Blind Mice.
Be brave, boys.
Oh, you're a good singer.
Yeah.
Oh!
So a couple of years later, my parents did the thing again, and then I had a little brother. We've always been really close. We've always been really close as well. Same shitty humor that like rarely anyone else understands, except for us, of course. And he's just as weird as I am in a way. He's not a musician though. He's definitely more into the cars side of things. If you add my dad, his dad, my brother, and me into a room, you've got four-way of trouble just coming straight at you. You don't want that, I'm telling you. But not long after my little brother was born, my parents split up. A few years after that, I moved up to Redcliffe in Queensland with my mum and my stepdad. Little did I know it, but this is where music would really start to form into something and take shape for me. I loved all kinds of music growing up. Grew up listening to country music. My parents listened to it, especially my stepdad's side of the family up north. We'd have bonfire parties and just blast country music all night. And it always stuck with me. I always loved the music. However, when I got to high school, I rebelled a little bit and I found a love for punk, pop punk, and heavy music. And one day, I was about 12 years old, and I saw Simple Plan's music video for the song Addicted on TV. And it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Like, these guys were like the coolest guys I'd ever seen in my life. I literally remember thinking, man, I want to be like those guys. So I got my first guitar and I started learning guitar thanks to that, and also watching Keith Urban just absolutely shred on a TV show one time. But I never had the patience to learn chords or anything like that. I literally just taught myself whatever sounded good. With that, I kind of fell really deep into the pop punk rock kind of thing. Started listening to bands like Good Charlotte, MXPX, Sum 41, Blink-182, as well as bands like Rancid and even the Sex Pistols, all that kind of thing. I loved it. I loved the attitude behind it. It was so like, just like, yeah, it was really cool. So a couple years later, I met these dudes in my music class, and they were a year above me. And I started jamming with them, which I didn't know at the time, but this actually would become my first ever band. There was a guitarist and a bassist already, and I didn't really have the confidence to be a singer, so I learnt drums just so I could jam with these dudes. It was actually a cover band of The Living End, which is a huge influence for me growing up as a teen. We wanted to do originals, so I knew I wasn't a drummer, so I took a huge leap and I moved to vocals. I guess you could say when we made that change and started writing our own stuff, we were more of an emo band. I was a singer and screamer, like kind of inspired by bands like The Used, Story of the Year, Aid, and Escape the Fate, like that kind of vibe. These nights I can't But as school was ending, we would go and hand out flyers to all the big shows that came around that were like of a similar style, and we even like started following some of the artists around Australia, like to all the different cities, and literally just all we would do is hand out flyers in the line. Like, we didn't even have tickets to the show. We were just completely broke, just out there hustling, and hopefully we could hear the band from outside. Like, we'd sit outside and listen to the show, just hearing the kick drum come through the wall or something like that. But it paid off, because eventually we did our first ever headline show and it sold out, which is absolutely crazy. Fast forward some more years, endless shows, tours, member changes, a name change, about 2 million different hairstyles for me. We met a hardworking manager who was the same age as us. That manager is actually the manager I have now in country music, Dana, the boss.
This is the reason that we're here on time.
We're 20 minutes early.
We're 20 minutes early. Wow, you are getting a pay rise. No, you're not. Yay! Massive thanks to Dana for looking after us for this whole tour, keeping us in order, and making sure that we don't die.
And she accompanied us on the road for years, like playing shows, driving 30-hour trips. The whole band would just like crash on like hardwood floors and stuff like that. Literally anywhere we could pass out for the night, whether it was a friend's house. We even stayed at people we didn't even know's house before. Like they were just like, oh yeah, you can just crash on our floor, man. We just bring all our sleeping bags and just sleep on the floor. Sometimes just literally no sleeping bag, just literally on a hardwood floor.
We are at Drew's house.
Get out of my house.
I remember one time we actually just slept on the side of the road as well, just because we had nowhere to sleep. Literally just pulled up in the car, got out and just slept on the side of the road, just in the middle of nowhere. It sounds like hell. This kind of stuff makes you, you know, like you realize just when stuff starts going well, you realize just how much it starts to pay off because you've put in so many hard yards and just absolutely worked your fingers to the bone and just done the absolute shit of the shit. Like we weren't getting paid for this stuff. It was costing us so much to tour and everything, but we loved it so much. We needed to be out on the road. Some of the best memories of my life doing that kind of stuff. But between Dana's hard work and our hard work as a band, like we never stopped pushing it. We have eventually did some amazing things. We started to pack out shows even more, started doing headline tours around the country, lots of sold out shows. I got to be on the same tour as The Offspring and The Used and my favorite band of all time, Simple Plan, as we spoke about earlier. I've actually got this photo I took sitting on the drum riser while The Offspring played to just an endless sea of people, and I just remember being like, man, this is what I would do for like the rest of my life. Like I don't want anything else. That view is just like the best thing in the world to me. I even got to sit on side stage while Simple Plan played every night, and literally just got to watch the band that inspired me to pretty much be a musician do their thing, and just to see it from that point of view instead of being in the crowd like for so many years was just like, wow. Like I got to talk to these guys every day of the tour, got photos with them. I showed them my tattoo. I've got them tattooed on my arm right here, which probably made me look like a huge fanboy. I got a big Simple Plan tattoo on my elbow. I even actually got to be on stage with The Used, which was absolutely crazy. One of my all-time favorite bands. We did some really cool things. You know, we really got to do some really cool things. After a while, things started to get pretty crazy. We used to show up at airports and have fans waiting to sign stuff and get photos, or we'd be somewhere in a different city and we'd just post a photo somewhere and fans would literally come trying to find us. And yeah, it was crazy, man. Like the amount of amazing people we met doing that was just out of this world, and it was just crazy to see this little band who had come from playing to absolutely nobody and sleeping on the side of the road to you know, actually having like a really decent following.
Thank you. Look at how big this train station is. Ready?
Take it back, don't want the things you like, don't want accessories that make it difficult for me. You are not the one I'm thinking of, together we could be two of the closest enemies. So let's forget it, cause it won't happen. Your fucked up reasons, well they don't matter, I'm moving on.
So I'd been listening to country music the entire time this was happening, actually. I really fell in love with modern country, like bands like Florida Georgia Line, Rascal Flatts, Jake Owen, Joe Nichols, Palmer Lee, all these kind of artists. And as a bit of fun and a side project, I actually recorded a country demo while I was in the punk band. It wasn't really anything polished or professional, it was just something I really wanted to do because I absolutely love the music. But I really wanted to play this style of music that I'd fallen in love with. A few years on, a bunch of headline tours later, more amazing stuff, the band come to an end. The guys kind of realized They wanted to do other things in life, but all I ever wanted in life was music. I'd lost friendships, work, relationships, everything over music, and I didn't want to give up this dream. It's all I had. And I had to make the decision. Did I want to be like a pop punk solo artist, like a male Avril Lavigne or something like that? Something like that? Do I want to start again in a new punk band? Because that's all I knew. Or do I want to take an absolute risk and try my absolute love, which was country music?
For the last time ever, let's do this. Let me take you home again. Thank you guys so fucking much. This has been a dream come true at so many fucking levels.
On our final tour with the band, I was really confused and conflicted. I was pretty much praying for a sign at this point. I didn't know what to do. We got off the plane in Melbourne. We went to pick up our guitars. And I went to pick up mine and I realized it wasn't my guitar. I turn around and Troy Cassar-Daley, the Australian country legend, is just standing next to me. It was his guitar. We started chatting just at the baggage carousel. Absolutely amazing guy, and he was headed off to play a show in Melbourne, as were we. So here I am, standing at the airport, leather jacket, ripped skinny jeans, chains hanging off me, black eyeliner all around my eyes, and a fringe that came down to about here. And I realized that was my sign. That moment kind of changed my life. I chose country music. I took the leap and I released the country demo that I'd recorded 2 years ago when my band was in full swing. I lost so many fans over the change. People didn't understand it. They didn't like it. A lot of people turned their back on me, except a few, which are actually still around today. A punk fan who actually liked country music sent it to a radio station called Planet Country. And they were all about upcoming acts and they loved what I was doing. And they started playing the songs and interviewing me, and I was so excited. I was really excited. Like, maybe people will actually like this. So I took a couple photo shoots, album artworks, and turned the demo into something a little more official. I reconnected with my band's manager, Dana, and found out she had been a huge country fan this entire time. We'd literally never spoken about it. And before I knew it, she was working with me once again. Both of us were just trying to find our way in a brand new music scene that either of us knew nothing about. We just had so much love for it. So at first, Australia didn't really want me in country music. I got the vibe anyway. I wasn't doing things the same way that everyone in the scene was doing. I was definitely a bit too much of an outsider for everyone. I still had my long fringe. I wore like really long t-shirts down to my knees, and I wore skinny jeans and boots and stuff like that. But I knew what I wanted, man. I just had to figure out how to convince the industry that I was legit. And I still don't know if they actually think I'm legit, but yeah, I'm loving what I'm doing. And I knew I wanted to be here. And finally, I'd found the one thing that I love so much. And I'd never felt more at home with the music I was making.
You're rocking that suntan skin, and I'm falling deeper in your eyes, like the moonlight at night.
So Dana and I started working our asses off. I treated myself as if I was an artist that had no experience and that nobody had ever heard of before. Literally doing everything I could to get my name out there. I started going to big country shows and handing out flyers again. I remember going to Morgan Evans shows around the country, just as I did when my band first started as teenagers. I went and busked everywhere that I could in front of people, out front of grocery stores, events, markets, anything that I could hand out my cards or demo to. When I started, I pretty much supported every single small artist in the scene that was a similar style and played countless amounts of shows just to get my name out there. I went to the Tamworth Country Music Festival and busked on the street outside a cafe for my first ever year at the festival. Just artists everywhere up and down the streets. So when I first came into the country, I was so broke. I still am. First couple of recordings I did, everything was me. Everything you've ever heard was from me, right up until my new stuff. Literally produced it myself, recorded it myself, played all the instruments on it, mixed it myself because I didn't have any money. I had one of my friends, Drew Brown, master it from down in Melbourne. I even recorded my own music videos. I taught Dana how to use my camera, and we literally shot videos, just the two of us. But everything you've ever seen kind of come out was done by either myself or Dana. So Dana and I, we've been a two-man team from day one. Thankfully, those fans that still supported me after making the huge life change, they never left my side, and I will forever be grateful for that. Because of them and all the new fans I made, promoters started putting me on shows. The crowd started to grow as country fans began to find my music.
was feeling love. She was swinging that along down here. Feel like time stood still.
Fast forward over the next couple of years, I got to tour and play shows with some of my absolute favorite Aussie country acts like Shannon Knoll, the Wolf Brothers, Troy Kemp, Drew McAllister, the Viper Creek Band, just to name a couple. I got put on the Denny U Muster, which was actually the first festival that actually gave me a shot. The Gympie Muster even got to support the legends Love and Theft from the USA, which was absolutely crazy. Things were really starting to happen for me. Here's a bit of a throwback montage of those years and just about how much we did in the lead up. Here we go.
She was swinging that long brown hair. Feel like time stood still. Feel like every girl I knew couldn't compare to you. Feel like every smile was shining like neon lights through the dark, lighting up my heart. And I was feeling love. Feeling like time stood still. Feeling like every girl I knew couldn't compare to you. Feeling like every smile was shining like neon lights through the dark and lighting up my heart. And I was feeling love. And I was feeling love.
In 2019, I had something pretty heavy happen. I felt my vocal cords starting to get tighter and I wasn't sure what the hell was happening. I got to a point where I could hardly sing a note and I had to stop singing. I had to cancel all my shows, all the tours, all my recording, interviews, festival spots, even international support spots, literally everything. So I went and saw multiple doctors and they all ran tests trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with me, checking for things like nodules, vocal tears, even throat cancer. And some doctors saying if it was that, I may never sing again. An ENT specialist eventually found out that I had something called MTD, muscle tension dysphonia. Basically, for a singer, what that means is the muscles surrounding your voice box go so tight that you can hardly move your voice box. I started going to multiple speech therapy sessions where they try to work me through problems. I thought everything that I'd ever worked for and everything I'd ever dreamed about was gone. And I hit a really, really deep, dark depression. Like, I'm talking really dark. I hated who I was. I didn't want to be me anymore. And to me, that was like losing pretty much everything. Like, I had nothing else in life. I had no backup job, no money, no savings, nothing except for music. And like, if I couldn't sing, like, what the hell was I gonna do with my life? I didn't want to be here anymore. Thanks to friends supporting me and family supporting me and Dana supporting me, I'm still here, as you can see. And one day I thought, you know what? Everything has always tried to beat me down. My band had so many member changes which would just stop and start us all the time. It broke up. I came into this scene, I fought so hard for people to pay attention to me. I worked so damn hard and busted my ass for so many years, and something has always tried to stand in my way. Like hell, this is gonna tear me down. It took almost 9 months, but I retaught myself how to sing from scratch. Some days it's still a little tough, it's still a little tight, but I'm pushing through, and I'm singing better than I've ever sang before. So I got offered to play at the Groundwater Country Music Festival as pretty much my first show back, and the crowd that showed up to support me was just insane. Like, it blew me away. And ever since that day, I wasn't letting anything get in my way anymore. Like, the support that I have from everyone that supports what I do is enough to give me the strength to do anything. Not long after, the pandemic hit. Can't catch a break, right? I came across this amazing songwriter from Canada on Instagram, Craig Brooks, and I just followed him. I sent him a message, just said, man, I really dig what you're doing. We ended up writing some songs together, and with him, I've written songs with other artists and stuff like that. Really cool guy. And all this just turned into a bit of a blur, but through meeting Craig, I recorded a song called Right About Now. And that brings us to where this JSTV series kicks off. I am proud as hell to say I've busted my ass for years trying to make this dream my life. I've had a small taste so many times over the years, I don't want anything else. In the episodes to come, I can't wait for you guys to meet the band, meet the boss, follow us along for all the adventures we got coming up. Stay tuned, it's gonna get fucking crazy. Still gonna be bummed.